And maybe you remember the feeling, starting a new goal, buying a new planner, writing down a fresh set of intentions, promising yourself, this time I'm going to stay consistent. For a little while, it worked. You felt energized, focused, optimistic, like you finally had momentum. But then life happened. The routine got interrupted. Stress showed up. Sleep got inconsistent. Responsibility piled up. And somehow the motivation that felt so powerful a few weeks ago started fading away. I think most of us have experienced that. And because we've experienced it, many of us came to the same conclusion. We assumed we'd need more discipline, more willpower, more determination. But over the years, something started bothering me about that explanation because life didn't always match the theory. I've worked around many people throughout the years, and I've noticed something strange. Some of the most motivated people I've ever met never seemed to gain traction. They were excited, committed, full of good intentions, always talking about what they're going to do next. Yet somehow they stayed in the same place. Meanwhile, other people rarely talked about motivation at all. They simply kept moving, steady, consistent, almost quietly. That observation made me curious because if motivation is the answer, why doesn't it always produce the results? The more I watched, the more I started to suspect that motivation wasn't the real story. I think the pattern is deeper than that. I think many people confuse motivation with alignment. Think back to a season in your life when things felt easier, not perfect, just easier. Maybe you were sleeping better. Maybe your schedule was, maybe you weren't carrying as much stress. Maybe your environment supported where you were trying to go. Maybe the people around you encourage movement instead of creating friction. During those seasons, did every step required motivation or did progress feel more natural? Now, think about a season when everything felt heavy, when stress followed you home, when your attention felt scattered, when you were carrying more responsibility than energy. How much motivation did it take to just do ordinary things? That's when I began to see it differently because the people who move consistently through life often aren't depending on motivation. They're depending on structure. Their environment supports movement. Their routine supports movement. Their energy supports movement. And because the structure supports movement, they require less force. Most of us were taught that success belongs to the person who pushes the hardest, the strongest willpower, the greatest discipline, the most determination. But real life often tells a different story because force is expensive, alignment is efficient. Think about a car. A car with proper alignment moves smoothly down the road. A car with poor alignment can still move forward, but it's constantly fighting against itself. The human system works in surprisingly similar ways. When sleep is inconsistent, when stress remains unresolved, when the environment creates constant friction, when attention is constantly fragmented, movement becomes heavier, not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, because the system is managing competing demands. So before asking, how do I become more motivated? Try asking a different question. What friction exists in my life? What is draining energy? What is creating resistance? What is making movement more difficult than it needs to be? Because sometimes one structural adjustment creates more progress than months of forcing yourself forward. You're not broken. You are not permanently stuck. And you may not even have a motivation problem. You may simply be operating inside a structure that no longer supports the direction you're trying to go. And once you can see the structure, you can begin redesigning it calmly, clearly, intentionally. Maybe motivation was never the whole story. Maybe motivation is often the symptom. And the deeper question is, what systems is producing the behavior? Because once you can see the structure, you can begin redesigning it. Thanks for watching.